In the serene town of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and a quiet forest, there stood an aging library, a sentinel of forgotten knowledge and hidden mysteries. Within the town's tranquil embrace lay a sinister secret, known only to Sarah, the granddaughter of the legendary town librarian. Obscure tales of an ancient manuscript, swathed in black leather and engraved with cryptic symbols, had always ensnared her imagination. Sarah's grandmother, with her stern warnings of dormant malevolence lurking within those ominous pages, couldn't quell her insatiable curiosity. It was on a tempestuous night, when thunder resonated like vengeful spirits and lightning tore through the heavens, that Sarah made her perilous choice. Armed with a flickering flashlight and driven by a relentless yearning to unearth the library's concealed horrors, she ventured into the heart of the abandoned abyss. The library, long abandoned by townsfolk, exuded a menacing charm, its shelves lined with dusty volumes, cobwebs draped like spectral guardians, and whispered secrets that clung to the air like curses. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors, Sarah stumbled upon a concealed chamber, cunningly hidden behind an ancient bookcase. The atmosphere within was oppressive, heavy with the weight of ages long past. Dusty tomes lined the shelves, their titles inscribed in languages that seemed to chant forgotten rituals. At the room's epicenter lay the object of her fascination, an ancient manuscript, its pages inscribed with inscrutable symbols that pulsed with eerie malevolence. As Sarah began to recite the incantations from the manuscript, a sinister chill infiltrated the chamber. The flickering candles cast grotesque shadows, their movements morphing into sinister specters. The whispers that had once been faint grew into an unsettling cacophony of voices, each one more tortured and vengeful than the last. Unseen hands, icy and implacable, reached out to Sarah, pulling her deeper into the abyss. Hours later, when the storm had subsided, the townspeople discovered the library's entrance ajar, and the manuscript lay open on the chamber floor. Sarah had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a palpable darkness that clung to the room like a malevolent shroud. It marked the genesis of a macabre cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the library's malevolent dominion. The news of Sarah's disappearance spread like wildfire throughout Willowbrook, and the town was shrouded in a pall of sorrow and fear. For days, volunteers scoured the woods surrounding the library, questioning anyone who might have seen her, but there was no trace of the young woman. The townspeople spoke in hushed tones about the library and the sinister manuscript, and it became an enduring legend, a testament to the perils of tampering with the unknown. In the days that followed, the library remained abandoned, its doors chained and padlocked, as if to keep the darkness within from seeping out. But the town's residents couldn't shake the feeling that the library held more secrets than it had revealed, and that Sarah's fate was intertwined with the malevolent manuscript. Weeks turned into months, and Willowbrook gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the memory of Sarah's disappearance and the library's ominous presence lingered. Some nights, when the wind whispered through the trees and the moon hung low in the sky, the townspeople claimed to hear faint echoes of Sarah's voice, carried on the night air. They would gather in small groups, exchanging nervous glances and clutching their coats tightly, as the library stood in the distance, dark and foreboding. It wasn't long before the legend of Willowbrook's library spread beyond the town's borders. Paranormal enthusiasts and thrill-seekers arrived in droves, drawn by the story of the malevolent manuscript and the young woman who had dared to confront it. They came armed with cameras, EVP, electronic voice phenomena, recording devices, and a thirst for the supernatural. The library, once forgotten and abandoned, had become a magnet for those who sought to unravel its mysteries. One such group, led by a self-proclaimed paranormal expert named Victor Blackwood, arrived in Willowbrook on a chilly autumn evening. Victor, a tall man with a grizzled beard and piercing blue eyes, had made a name for himself by investigating some of the world's most haunted places. He had heard the rumors about Willowbrook's library and was eager to add it to his list of conquests. With cameras rolling and EVP devices in hand, Victor and his team entered the library, their footsteps echoing through the silent corridors. The air inside was thick with anticipation, and the flickering candles on the chamber floor cast eerie shadows on the walls. As they approached the manuscript, Victor couldn't hide his excitement. "This is it," he whispered to his team. "The infamous manuscript that supposedly drove a young woman to vanish into thin air. Let's see what secrets it holds." With a sense of trepidation and excitement, Victor began to recite the incantations from the manuscript, his voice echoing through the chamber. The room seemed to come alive, as if the very walls were listening. The candles flickered, and the temperature dropped. Suddenly, a voice, ethereal and chilling, echoed through the chamber. It was a voice unlike any they had ever heard, filled with sorrow and rage. The voice seemed to emanate from the shadows themselves, and Victor's team exchanged nervous glances. "Who are you?" Victor called out, his voice quavering. The voice replied, "I am the darkness that dwells within these pages, the malevolence that has waited for centuries. You have awakened me, and now you must face the consequences." Before their eyes, the shadows in the chamber began to coalesce, forming a sinister figure that seemed to materialize from the very darkness. It was a specter, a being of pure malevolence, and it advanced toward them with a haunting grace. Panic gripped Victor and his team as they tried to retreat, but the chamber seemed to have no exit. The specter reached out with shadowy tendrils, and one by one, the members of the team were enveloped in darkness, their screams echoing through the chamber. Outside the library, the townspeople heard the terrified cries and rushed to the scene, but when they entered the library, all they found was an empty chamber, the manuscript lying open on the floor. Victor and his team were never seen again, joining the ranks of those who had ventured into the library and never returned. The legend of Willowbrook's library grew even darker, a cautionary tale of the perils of meddling with the unknown. To this day, the library stands as a foreboding presence in Willowbrook, its secrets known only to the shadows that dwell within its walls. The townspeople keep their distance, knowing that some mysteries are better left unsolved, some darkness better left undisturbed, and that the malevolent manuscript is a force that should never be awakened.